lesson, we'll be going over the song, the history of the song a little bit. We'll look at my arrangement and the scale it uses. We'll go over the basic technique that it's using, and then we'll just run through the song really slowly so that everyone can get a feel for it. If you check the description, there's a link to the tab. There's a link to a more comprehensive history that I made of the song if anyone's interested. And there's some links to me playing the song fully if you want something to compare to. Alright? Cool. Misirlou. So, very iconic song. I'm sure everyone has heard it in their life. Starts its life somewhere in the Mediterranean or the Middle East. Its etymology originally is a translation of the word meaning Muslim or Egyptian woman. So the song's originally written for an Egyptian lady or about an Egyptian lady. The song was already popular in the 1920s when it was first recorded. Jewish klezmer bands knew all about it. Greek bands, Turkish bands, they all played it. And it was first recorded in 1927, I believe. It's kind of like a slower version with a slightly different sound than we're kind of familiar with it. It sort of jumped the pond like a lot of songs did, came to America. And it definitely caught on with the Greek American community, where it sort of became a very popular song for a circular dance, and also became the name of that dance. So Miserlou is the name of a dance and a song. That dance and song caught on in the Armenian community as well. They have their own version of the song, and it's also popular in the Serbian community, although they often dance to different songs. The song was arranged in 1941 in America for sort of like a jazzy number, and that's when it really started to catch on with the general public in the United States. And eventually, 1962, Dick Dale, sort of the father of surf guitar and surf rock, recorded his version. He remembers it from his childhood. Sorry, that's my dog barking. He remembers it from his childhood, and he based his version on him playing a hand drum, so that's where that really steady alternating beat comes from, this alternate picking style. So he recorded the song, became popular for a while, maybe faded from consciousness, and then was repopularized in the 90s when Quentin Tarantino used it as the sort of theme for Pulp Fiction. So that brings us to today, where we're playing it on the ukulele. And I already released a lesson on how to do it pick style or finger style, so now we're going to learn how to do it clawhammer style. So if you're not familiar with clawhammer, I do have another video. I'll put a link in the description. That'll get you familiar with the basics of clawhammer, because I'm not going to be going over everything right in this video, but I will go over some of it, so we'll get started with that now. Alright, so clawhammer, named for the claw shape and how you hammer down. Sort of originally a West African technique, and it came with West Africans. They were one of the many peoples, one of the many victims of the transatlantic slave trade, along with Central Africans and East Africans. But the down picking, the clawhammer, really comes from the West Africa. It became applied to the Afro-Caribbean banjo and spread with the banjo, up into the United States, and was the dominant and really only form of playing the banjo until the 1860s. Although that's debatable. A lot of people are now saying that there was a lot of up-picking involved in West African playing, and that a lot of the early banjo players might have been up-picking as well, playing fingerstyle, but obviously nobody knows for sure. But down-picking clawhammer was the most popular form of banjo until guitar style or parlor style, which was based on classical guitar technique, became popularized. It was sort of considered more civilized by Americans at the time, so that's why it sort of became popular as the banjo spread in throughout the United States. So obviously clawhammer survived in the mountains mostly. Appalachia, a lot of the old-time players were playing clawhammer. It was thought for a long time that they might have learned it from minstrel shows, so other white people, but most likely they learned it from just other musicians, black musicians who were living in the area who taught them how to play it, or just general cultural osmosis. So it sort of survived as a not very popular form of banjo playing. You know, pick style banjo, tenor banjo got popular for a while, and then in the 40s, Scruggs style bluegrass banjo became super, super popular, and that was sort of the most popular form of banjo until the folk revival happened, and clawhammer was repopularized by people like, well, Pete Seeger kind of plays up picking, but it's almost the same as clawhammer. So yeah, the basics of clawhammer. It's a form of down picking. So most forms are up picking. So when you pick the ukulele, normally you go like this, right? You pick up on the strings. Clawhammer, you're hitting down. So you're hitting down on the string with your nail. I'll try and show another angle. I'm hammering towards the sound hole, not down that way, down this way, sort of. And as my finger hits a string, my thumb hits the 4th high string here, and either stays there or bounces off. So that's single note, and then there's brushes. They call the chords brushes, we call that in clawhammer. So if this is a challenge, go back to my other basic clawhammer video. I have 2 of them, and go through that, and then come back to here. Tuning wise, I am retuning for this song. I wouldn't necessarily have to. I could play it in standard tuning, but I like it better and it's easier this way. So I have taken what is normally the A string, and I've tuned it down to G. So the notes are G, C, E, G now. So these are the same. So tune it down with your tuner, or if you just want to retune by ear until it matches, that's how that works. So then you have a nice C chord here, open C, which works really well with the song. So that'll be one chord we'll be playing, and then another way to play this chord would be to play it this way. So 5th fret right here, 4th fret right here, 3rd fret right here, open string right here. Now if you're in standard tuning, I'd have to fret that right there. This is the 7th fret in this tuning, a 7th chord in this tuning, but it'd be the major chord in the regular ukulele tuning. But this way you can just do it like this. Say 1, 2, 3. Same as doing like this chord down here, but I'm just sliding it up. So that's another C chord. That's a C chord as well. So that's one we'll be playing. So those are basically the 2 brushes or chords that we're doing. Open C, and then this fretted C chord. Alright, so I said in the description there's links to the tab, and there's links to what's called the Misirlou Scale. Originally it uses something called the harmonic major scale. I've slightly modified it. It's kind of like a Phrygian dominant scale, or like a flamenco Spanish scale. Pardon me. So if you want to open up that tab, or that link on Imgur, and we'll look through the scale so we get comfortable with that in clawhammer before we attempt the song, okay? So yeah, open up. It's called Misirlou Scale. Underneath it says Phrygian dominant. And we're just going to run through that using the clawhammer technique, just basic down picking. So I'm going to hit each note. The first note is this C. I'm going to hit that right there. And I'm not going to bounce off of it yet. We'll work on just hitting it, and when it makes contact, my thumb makes contact with this string but doesn't make a sound. See? That's making a slight sound. I can mute it. But alright, so we're going to run through the scale. So O, open, C, 1st fret, open E, 1st fret, 3rd fret, 4th fret, 6th fret, 8th fret, 9th fret. That's the one again. So we've got the octave and then the flat 2. All right, so let's run through that again, okay? let's run through it again with a little fourth string action on our thumb. So every time you play a note, this is called knockdown style. You're just knocking through. See? So we'll go. All right. So make sure you can do that. Keep practicing that, and just make sure you can do it going up this and then adding the thumb in too. And once you can do that fairly smoothly, you're ready to move on to the next step, which would be playing it how I play it, with lots of drop thumb and syncopation. Okay? All right, so get back to practicing it, and then we'll move on. All right, so if you've got the basic scale down, let's move on to the song, okay? So if you open up the link to the Clawhammer tab, as you see, it says Misirlou Clawhammer Open C, G, C, E, G tuning. Remember, that's the tuning that we're in, not open tuning. I mean, not standard ukulele tuning, although you can play this with very little modification in that tuning. You just can't do as many cool brushes with it, in my opinion. All right, so if you look at this tab, it's pretty complicated. If you've never seen a Clawhammer banjo tab, if you're coming here from ukulele and you've never seen any sort of Clawhammer tab, this looks like super complicated, I'm sure. Clawhammer is one of those things that's hard to notate it because there's so much of this action, so notating that constantly just makes a piece look super busy. A lot of them are just bare bones and you add your own style to them. So I've tried to approximate some of the syncopation that I'm doing. You know, normally when you Clawhammer, every time you bum, you diddy. So bum, diddy, bum, diddy, bum, diddy. But I do a lot of, syncopated drop thumb where I'm skipping certain notes, and that's hard to notate. So this is sort of just a bare bones look at the tab. So I would use that as a reference, more of like a reference or a guide, and refer back to this video instead to get more of the intricacies and everything. Okay. All right. So let's just take a look at the song and we'll run through it super slowly. Okay. All right, so let's just take a quick overview of the arrangement real quick. As you can see, take a look at the tab real quick, the Clawhammer tab. It's A section, B section, so AV format, AAB. You play the A section twice and moves on to the B, and you can play that once or twice. Doesn't really matter. There's lots of different arrangements. Some versions get faster as it goes on, which you can do if you want to, but I would work on getting it down first. All right, so just wanted to go over the form, make sure everyone's clear on that before we dive into it, okay? All right, so first note is C. So the first thing you're going to do is hammer down on the open C string with your index, or if you want to use your middle finger. A lot of banjo players use their middle finger. I like to use my index finger, especially on ukulele. I can't get a good angle holding it like this. Alright, so normally the rule of Clawhammer is sound the 5th string every time, or the 4th string every time, but we're obviously going to be doing some reverses of that. So the first part of this is hammering on. So I'm hammering, and then instead of going, I'm skipping the second bum and going straight. It's hard to explain. I'm going, instead of going, I'm going. So sort of pretending to hit that second note instead of going, I'm going. And then I'm immediately jumping my thumb up. This is called, or dropping my thumb down would be that correct term that we usually use, drop thumb. With a little syncopation, I'm going, and then hitting that open C again, so. Now yeah, that's one of the perils of using a small instrument for this, is sometimes I hit the wrong string. And if that happens in a performance, just keep going. Pretend like you didn't hit the wrong note and nobody will notice. It's harder to pretend to do that at a lesson, but pretend I hit the right note, okay? All right, so. Right, so as soon as I hit that note with my thumb right here, I'm going to hammer on. With my first finger. Yeah, got that? Okay. So, and then I'm going to hammer on again on this open E string. And I'm going to sound this. And then I'm going to, so I'm going to go up here. And you can skip those. I like to do them a lot. I come from the school of banjo playing where you want to hear a lot of this, but you don't have to do it every time. You can go like this. But I like to go. It fills it up a little bit more, and honestly it makes the sound a little bit more complicated than it is, which is always nice when you sound more skilled than you are. Alright, so we've got... Now we're going to go up to here, and we're going to sort of do that same syncopated thumb thing again. So the way I play at pick style is I go like this. But when I'm playing Clawhammer, I tend to move my index finger a little bit more and use not quite correct technique and posture. So we're going to go. See? So I'm sliding up my index finger. Then I'm going to do that syncopated thumb thing again. On this note right here, the 3rd fret of the E string. And then I'm going to hammer on again, just like I did here. I'm doing the same thing, but I'm doing... See? Like that dissonance right there is nice. It builds a little tension, and then you release it. Yeah, so. And then we're going to do 6, 4, 3. And I'm going to, like I said, I'm doing this each time, but you can just go if you want, but I like to go. So far we've got alright, so now we're to the part where we've got chords. Alright, so remember that chord. It's just another way to play C. It's a triad. So as soon as we get here, I'll keep my finger there and just add these two right there. I want to make sure that my index finger isn't muting this string right there, because I kind of want that to sound. Yeah? And I'm going to do what I call a rake. I'm taking my fingers like this. Alright? I keep my fingers slightly separated, not like this, but like this. And I rake them across the strings. And then... This would be like the banjo equivalent of a rasgudo, you know, like this, and but I'm going like this. Keeping my fingers separated gives me distinct sounding. See? Or you can go like this too. I do that sometimes too. So far we've got Rake. And then I'm going, sorry. Right? So we do that twice. Got it? All right. So now we just repeat that part again. All right. Cool. So now we're going to do some more hammering on. So remember this syncopated drop thumb? That's on the 4th fret of the E string. And I'm doing that with my middle finger, and I've got my index finger lined up right behind it for the hammer on pull off thing. Okay? So I'm going. Watch this. You can go. Or you can go. Sounding that string again, which I like to do, but again, it's optional. Alright, so you got that. Then you're going to do the same thing, but right here. Got it? So sorry. So this is sort of like a static sitting on it. So you can do brushes here if you want. You can do single note. Again, I'm doing drop thumb. Or you can do brushes. Or rascudo. Alright, so let's go over that so far. So So remember I said we're sitting here. We don't have to sit here. We can make use of the scale a little bit and some passing tones. I go like this. So hammering on to the 1st fret of the C string. And then pulling off, and then hitting the 3rd fret of this G string right here, which is the 7th note of the scale. And, you know, as you're beginning, don't worry too much about string accuracy. If you're missing strings, you know, try and work on it, but don't worry too much. Obviously, you're still getting a feel for the song as long as you keep time. See, I wasn't playing any particular note, I was just doing brushes there. Alright? Alright, so we just did. the same thing, but starting on a note lower. So we went. Now we're going 3rd fret, 4th, 1st, open. So. Got it? All right, so that's the A section. Let's go over it one more time, and then I want you to pause this and practice that, okay? So we'll go over it slowly one more time. So that's repeated. You repeat that, so you basically play it twice. All right, so go back, practice that, and then we'll move on to the B section, okay? All right, so let's move on to the B section. So this is like the big build-up. Everyone's building tension, and then it's all released all at once, you know. So let's start there. As soon as you finish the A section for the second time, all right, so the first note is 1st fret of the E string right here. And I'm doing that drop thumb syncopation. So I'm going, I'm playing open, and then playing the same thing on that on the 3rd fret. And then I'm doing the same thing, going backwards, going up to the 4th fret, 6th fret, 8th fret. So ready? Let's do it again. Sit here. You can do brushes, like I said. You can do that the whole way. All right, so here. Now remember, this is the octave. The highest note we're going to go to is the next one. So. 8, 9, 8, 6 for fret numbers. But one thing I like to actually do is bend it instead of going up here. So instead of going, I go. All right, so we're going. We'll start at the 8th. Bend it, go back to the 6th, then 4, 6, 3, 3rd fret. We're going to do this rake again. All right, so far for the B section we've got this walk down again. like from the A section, right? So 3, hammer on. Alright, and that's the B section. You can play it twice, or you can go right back to the beginning of the song. Alright? So go ahead and practice that to the tab and watch the video again before we try putting them back together, okay? Cool. Alright, so if you've got the A section and the B section down, if you think you've got them good, let's play through it real slowly. We'll just do the first part and the second part, A and B. Normally I play it AAB or AABA. We'll just do the first part and the second part real slow, okay? Alright, so let's just go through it real slow. First part, second part, okay? A little faster. B, B. Alright, see how it gets faster? It's really hard to play that song slowly. Alright, so yeah, that's it. If you have any questions, concerns, issues, just write me a comment or send me a message or whatever, and I'll be happy to answer it. No problem. Okay? Thanks for watching.